Hey guys, VCM Pics here, and I got a quick question for you. Do you want to be a photographer? Nah, I'm messing with you. I get this question all the time about photography. Hey, I want to get into photography. I want to start photography. Hey, I actually want to learn about cameras and stuff. And people just ask me on the spot. And pretty much, I don't know how to give them a full photography tutorial about everything I've learned in photography within like 5 minutes, within a 5-minute conversation. But I'm making these videos about the basics, something that I've learned around this 5-year experience, and sharing a little bit with you, enough for you to get started with it or get acclimated about it. Sometimes it's like, hey, you want to talk about photography with your friends, or you want to do it, you want us to dabble in it a little bit. I'll just say this, let's start with the basics. So today we're going to be covering the camera, the shutter speed, and the ISO. Let's start off with the camera. Does it need to be expensive? Does it need to be a whole car note that you need to pay up front for the camera? Yes, but we'll get into that later. Grab your phone, you can grab your phone, whatever, or you could go down to Walmart or wherever to find a camera there, start a camera. That could be really good for you actually. But personally, I've used the Canon T3i for most of my photography for the past 5 years. I only use the T5i, but that's basically the T5i in general. This is this right here. This came out in 2011, and I've been able to get some absolutely good shots. I've only upgraded my camera this year. So everything you could possibly do to start out with photography, you could do it with this camera. I guarantee you. Personal preference, but I think it works for everybody. If you get one that has a flip out screen, I think that's the best for getting angles. I think honestly all cameras should come, with the flip out screen by now. I mean, it's not only for vlogging, which a lot of people use it for, but when you're getting angles down, when you have to get down for angles or going around corners or so on and so forth, it's helpful to have that flip out screen just for you to have, a multitude of variations to do. So shutter speed. So do me a favor real quick. Blink your eye in 3, 2, 1. Blink. Now blink as fast as you can in 3, 2, 1. Did you blink as fast as you can? I hope you did. I'm explaining a little bit why I'm doing this. So now blink as slow as you can. So 3, 2, 1. Blink as slowly as possible. That basically is what shutter speed is. The shutter speed is basically your camera just blinking, just closing its eyes and blinking for a second, right? Remember this, right? Faster, darker, sharper, slower, brighter, blur. The faster the shutter speed, the darker the image. But the faster the shutter speed, the sharper the image. So if it's blinking really fast, or if the shutter speed is really fast, that means the image is going to be much sharper than anything. But it may come with the downside of being darker. If that's what you're going for, that's kind of what you got to do. But on the flip end, right? The slower the shutter speed, the brighter image. The slower the shutter speed, the brighter the image. But with the brighter image and a slower shutter speed comes a much blurrier image. If you're trying to capture something in motion, it's hard to do that with the slower shutter speed. It's a range. It's pretty much a range. So as long as you're kind of experimenting, you'll be prepared for those situations, and then you'll hop right into it. Now let's talk about the ISO, right? So real quick demonstration, just close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes, trust me. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna steal your stuff and anything. Just close your eyes real quick. Close your eyes. So do you see some red, some green, some weird colors that you can't really explain why they're there, right? As you're closing your eyes, maybe as you're facing the light or wherever, if it's dark, you get to see some maybe green, some purple, some red, all those kind of things in there, right? I'll explain this in a minute, but you can open your eyes now, trust me. So the ISO is affecting how the camera reads the light. So pretty much it's the difference between looking at a light piece of paper and a much brighter piece of paper. That's what the ISO does to the camera sensor. So the camera determines how it reads the images, or how it is sensitive to light with the ISO. Remember when I told you to close your eyes and you started seeing those weird colors? Those are the stuff that starts to happen when you increase the ISO as much as possible. Depending on the camera, the ISO range will change whatsoever. We'll get into that a little bit later. When the image or the situation is not lining up for the camera, that's when you bump up the ISO so you could reach it as much as possible. So you could reach a much clearer image as possible. When you increase the ISO, you're adding more fake light to the scenario. It's like you were closing your eyes, right? Now, the more fake light, the more weird colors, I'll tell you that. The more fake light you have in the image, more ISO is bumped up. That's when you get much more of a more disintegrated. Like, it's like when you see those images and it's like it'll have those weird spots in it. It's like it's never clear or anything. That's what happens when there's fake light added to the image. But again, this is going to depend on your scenario, on your camera, and you know where you're shooting. If you're shooting at night, most likely the ISO is going to be much higher. If you're shooting during the daytime, you can keep that as low as possible. You can go down to 200, you can go down to 100, whatsoever. Trust me, I like shooting in the daytime because again, I don't like to bump up the ISO as much as possible. But again, depending on the style of photography you're doing, it may be good to have a little bit of grain in there. Another thing I want you to remember, so more ISO, more fake light. More ISO, more fake light. Now let's talk about pixels. Pixels. I honestly hate talking about pixels. I don't really, people like to nitpick. I don't like to nitpick about it, but it is something to consider. How do I talk about pixels? How do I simplify this? Bet, I got it. So think about a pink polka dot dress, right? Think about a pink dress. I don't know if I can put the animation up, but think about a pink polka dot dress, right? The more dots that are on the dress, the more pink the dress is, right? So get this. So if the dots are bigger, the less dots are needed to make the dress more pink than anything. Think about that as pixels. So as a beginner, the most cameras that you have right now, you don't really have to consider that. All of them are at a good range for you to start and experiment with. But for the meantime, I want you to remember this. So the more pixels, the better the image. But the bigger the pixels, the better the image. So I must admit that this might be the least of your concern as a beginner. Most cameras that you will find starting out have a set number of pixels that are good to pretty much start out with. Once you start getting specific into your field, if that's something that you want to pursue, then you start realizing, okay, is it pixels? Is it the more pixels I need, or is it bigger pixels you need? Because bigger is not always, you know, the more pixels, so on and so forth. It varies, trust me, it varies. But as beginner, this is going to be the least of your concern. It's as I keep talking, something happens and make me like want to listen and like it's when you press the record button, all of a sudden there's stuff that needs to go off and make sounds of anything. So let's review now, because I already know you forgot. You don't gotta lie to me, because I would forget if I were you too. So remember, for shutter speed, faster, darker, sharper, slower, lighter, blur, right? So faster, sharper, it's a tongue twister. I know, it's a tongue twister. Faster, darker, sharper. See, look, I forgot. Look how crazy that is. So faster, darker, sharper, slower, lighter, blur, right? And then for ISO, more ISO, more fake light. More ISO, more fake light, all right? And then for pixels, bigger the pixels, the better the image. The more pixels, the better the image. So you don't gotta worry about that. You'll figure that out much later. The next video in this series is gonna be about lenses. So we're gonna be talking about apertures, we're gonna talk about millimeters, everything you need to know about it to at least start. Thank you for watching this video. Please definitely check out the other videos I have, and stay tuned for the next video in this series. Comment down below, what kind of camera are you looking to get into? Is it Canon? Is it Sony? Is it Nikon, or anything? Or even if you're doing it by mobile phone, like, so if you have an iPhone, Android. Personally, I have the Moto G stylus, so that one's working for me. Or tell me whatever one that you're looking at, or that you already have. Tell me even what kind of photography you're even trying to do. But in that case, spread a little love on that like button. Please definitely subscribe for more stuff I have coming up, and also turn on that bell, because it's much better than, you know, kind of keeping it dormant whatsoever. It's working for you and also working for me. So I'll see you guys later. Take care.